The main character in the story is a young man named Ren. He was expelled from his hero team because he only had the ability to control animals. Beast tamers form contracts through the hearts of diverse animal species to command their powers. Beast tamers aren't well suited for combat, but as a member of a hero team, Ren always tried his best in his supporting role and wanted to build trust with his teammates. But unexpectedly, he was kicked out of the team because they felt he was useless. He thought they were just playing a prank, but the contemptuous looks from Arios, Agus, Lin, and Mina proved otherwise. He was shocked by their insulting words, calling him a burden, just because Ren couldn't inflict damage on enemies and only cause trouble for his teammates. Ren never expected that in everyone's eyes, he was just a useless person. His hands trembled, his face darkened, and he began to remove his cloak before leaving amid his teammates' scornful laughter. Ren sat dejectedly in one place, thinking about everything he had been through. He was always judged by others during missions because he was just a beast tamer who couldn't do anything else. While Ren didn't know what to do next, suddenly a group of children surrounded him, asking about his work as a hero. Ren stuttered, not knowing how to answer, but they were so excited to see him perform that he stood up and formed a contract with an eagle to show them. Afterward, Ren heard about the poor reputation of the hero group compared to ordinary people here. But the children liked Ren more because he always played with them, and they really wanted to become adventurers someday and earn a lot of money. Upon hearing about adventurers, a thought flashed in Ren's mind. Adventurers are people who accept commissions for payment. Immediately, Ren rushed to the Adventurers Guild. There, he met a receptionist named Natalie. She was about to explain the adventurer's test when Ren asked if she could explain in detail about adventurers. Because Ario's group had always looked down on adventurers, they never interacted with them much. Seeing Ren's seriousness, Natalie was quite surprised and explained that there were many candidates taking this basic test. Then Natalie began to explain everything in detail to Ren. Seeing that he was ready, she discussed the adventurer's test, but upon hearing that he was a beast tamer, Natalie became quite concerned, fearing he couldn't go alone. Her words once again pierced his heart like his teammates had done before. But Ren still managed to lift his spirits and tried his hand at the first test, which was to defeat 10 goblins and collect 20 bundles of herbs. Thanks to his beast tamer skills, he quickly found all 10 goblins and completed the F-rank mission. Suddenly, he heard a scream from afar. Ren ran over and saw a girl being surrounded by an assassin tiger, but his small blade was merely like scratching the tiger. While it was focused on him, Ren told the girl to run quickly. At this moment, there were no animals for him to tame and no weapons around. As he was thinking, suddenly a girl appeared behind the tiger. She jumped up dozens of meters high and delivered a blow to the assassin tiger's back, severely injuring it. After defeating the enemy with one strike, she turned back shyly and sat on the tiger's back. This pink-haired girl with a noble aura was named Canet. Looking her over, Ren realized she was from the Spirit Cat clan. It was one of the most powerful clans, and the Spirit Cat clan was the rarest. Suddenly, the girl showed signs of exhaustion and fell to the ground. Ren quickly ran to catch her and worried she was injured. To his surprise, when he leaned close to her ear, he heard that she was just hungry. So Ren shared his food with her. He sat watching, unable to believe his eyes that she was real. Because the Spirit Cat clan was said to be facing extinction, even among the strongest clans. Canet said she hadn't eaten anything for several days. After eating her fill, she began to introduce herself. Ren also introduced himself, but was unexpectedly corrected by Canet, reminding him to only call her by her name. Don't call her Miss or anything like that. Ren was quite curious about why she was in this forest. Canet said she was adventuring because she was bored with the quiet life deep in the mountains, so she set out on an adventure and met Ren like a destiny in her life. Before anything else, she already asked him to tell her about his life. Ren didn't understand why when talking about his story. He always felt uncomfortable but could tell Canet everything. After hearing about how he was kicked out of the hero group, Canet was very angry on Ren's behalf. He was very grateful that Canet understood him. Although Canet was very upset with the people who expelled him, because Ren didn't care, she decided to let it go too. Though slightly uncomfortable, Ren suddenly patted her head to thank her, which she really enjoyed. Ren also didn't expect that he accidentally did it by reflex, but since she didn't seem to mind, he let it be. Suddenly, Canet returned to reality and clarified something. Ren wasn't useless at all, but rather very strong, and his beast-taming abilities were outstanding. It seemed he had commanded her. because the moment she saw him, she felt a tingling sensation like electricity. It's very possible that if he could command her, he could command her entire spirit cat clan, because only a few people in the world could command them. But thinking it over, Ren realized it wasn't about being able to command one of the strongest clans, but that he wanted to become closer with Tamed. Afterward, Ren bit his finger to draw a little blood to prepare to create a contract with Tamed. During the contract creation, only when Tamed voluntarily says her name would the contract be established. Otherwise, it wouldn't be completed. Unexpectedly, Tamed willingly said her name as if agreeing to form a contract with Ren, making him very happy. The contract was completed when a red circular pattern appeared on her hand. The two shook hands as a welcoming gesture. Who would have thought that a beast tamer like Ren, who had just lost his teammates and goal, could command one of the strongest clans, and such a cute one at that? But before returning to Fire City, they needed to complete the adventurer's mission first. Suddenly, seeing him form a temporary contract with a rabbit made Tamed jealous. But she still became immersed with these fluffy cotton rabbits. Seeing Ren again form temporary contracts with a bunch of rabbits to help him harvest, made Tamed even more envious, as if he was too timing. Only Ren was naive and didn't understand anything, making Tamed even more annoyed. In a very short time, Ren completed the assigned mission and passed the test. Because of this, Natalie issued him an F-rank adventurer card. At the same time, she gave him the reward for this time, 50 copper coins. She advised him that if he got promoted, there would be more. And since Ren completed the test in such a short time, she was certain he would be promoted soon. After receiving the money, Ren went to Tamed and announced that he would start accepting commissions from now on. She happily accepted and supported him wholeheartedly. Suddenly, an impudent person came up to them. He saw that Tamed was from the rare Spirit Cat clan and was very interested. She responded to him with a cold tone, which unexpectedly made him more excited about her and wanted to invite her for a drink. Then he even belittled Ren in front of Tamed, causing her eyebrows to furrow when he dared to mention the handsome guy she had just met. She didn't hesitate to fluff up her cat fur, scolding him, and declaring to everyone there that Ren was the master commanding her. He seemed surprised and burst into laughter. Because a strongest clan like the Spirit Cat, how could anyone be able to command them? Seeing the girl exaggerate, calling Ren an amazing beast tamer, he became resentful and wanted to challenge Ren, using Tamed as a bet. Although Ren had many rumors about him, and if he wanted to avoid this battle, this thug would likely cause trouble with Tamed anyway. So Ren took a risk, all or nothing. Unexpectedly, just a few seconds into the fight, he easily defeated the thug and won before even understanding what happened. Meanwhile, the other guy was holding his arm in pain, screaming loudly. Natalie heard the commotion and quickly ran out to see, finding that it was the same troublemaker who had been harassing the guild recently. She apologized to Ren for this person's behavior and mentioned that the guild was considering revoking his adventurer status. Before she could finish, he grabbed her skirt, so Natalie taught him a valuable lesson. After dealing with him, Natalie did a 180-degree change in attitude and asked Ren why. While taking the adventurer's test, he went and formed a contract with one of the strongest clans. Natalie's interrogation scared them both, making them immediately apologize to her. Seeing that she had gone too far, Natalie apologized for joking too much and then said goodbye to both of them while she went to handle the rest. Thinking it over, Ren couldn't understand why he had the strength to defeat that guy, so Tamed explained it to him. Because he had formed a contract with one of the strongest clans like her. He also received a power upgrade equal to the Spirit Cat clan. This surprised Ren quite a bit because it seemed that in his hometown, no one had ever formed a contract with one of the strongest clans. Moreover, Tamed was very happy that he had stood up to protect her earlier, making the young man blush speechless. Afterward, they set out to do the assigned mission. Tamed thought adventurers would have to wield big swords or rescue captured princesses, but it was just harvesting herbs. Ren explained that because he was only an F-rank adventurer, the lowest level, he could only receive simple commissions. Hearing this, Tamed also lifted her spirits and tried to help him harvest. Unexpectedly, the rabbits that he had temporarily contracted had already finished her task, making Tamed confused, accusing them of cheating, and disappointed that even though she was Ren's familiar, she couldn't do anything for him. Suddenly, at that moment, she heard noisy shouting from afar, so they both ran toward it. Here, a group of big, fierce-looking people were bullying and surrounding an old man. According to what Tamed knew from her adventure time, they were the Black Fang Bandit group, with a scale of over 100 people. They were extremely cruel and immoral, always doing bad things. They were also a very dangerous opponent, so she advised Ren whether they should go call for help. But Ren thought there was no time left, forcing them to do something now. Seeing Ren's courage like that, Tamed was very proud. He assigned her to protect the old man, while he would handle the others. As soon as he finished speaking, they both rushed forward like a gust of wind, then knocked each one out. Suddenly, Tamed was thinking about Ren, feeling quite anxious that when Ren formed a contract with her, a spirit cat from the strongest clan, upon receiving the power, would he be self-destructive? As a familiar, shouldn't she stand in front and fight? Wouldn't that be better? But Ren always stood in front to protect her. Every time she saw his fighting stance, she couldn't take her eyes off him and even felt her heart beating rapidly. After dealing with the bandits, Ren was surprised to see Taned's face as red as a tomato, causing her to quickly explain and change the subject. The old man also came to thank both of them. Ren wondered why a merchant like the old man didn't have any guards with him, but the old man replied that he had hired one, but when they encountered the trouble, he had run away. Although they had saved him, the old man reminded Ren that the Black Fangs would eventually return to avenge their comrades, advising him to be careful. Thinking Ren would be scared and run away, unexpectedly, he even demanded to go to their lair and capture them all, because he knew these gang members were violent and vengeful. If they didn't capture them, the merchants in town would only become victims. Ren had also found their hideout thanks to a little squirrel. Meanwhile, Tamed was feeling disappointed in herself. Despite her position as his familiar, she couldn't do anything. After saying this, she became optimistic again and asked about Ren's plans. His plan was to use the Count Bee by forming a temporary contract, as it possessed paralyzing venom that would help him stop the guards. Tamed was surprised because bees were insects, so how could Ren command it? Regarding that, Ren explained to her that back in his hometown, he had also trained in insect taming, which is a branch of beast taming to tame insects. Hearing this, Tamed was full of admiration for Ren's talents. Whenever he was mentioned, it was always astonishing. Afterward, Ren asked Tamed to help him return to town to call for reinforcements, shocking her once more because until now, she hadn't received any task that could support him. But she still optimistically agreed to return and call for reinforcements from the Night Squadron. They are a group of people who protect cities or towns everywhere, operated by the state. Just as Tamed left, the Count Bees had fully assembled, and Ren began to use the temporary contract to control them. Meanwhile, Lin and Mina's group were running desperately to escape from the bandits, because they wanted to earn a little money to kill time before conquering the Lost Forest. They had accepted a commission that they couldn't fail. If they had known it would be this messy, they would have gone to greet Arios and Agus, which would have been better. In her anger, Lin blamed the beast tamer beside them who had also run away before them. He had also told them that he was just a beast tamer, so he wasn't suitable for combat. Speaking of this, Lin mentioned Ren, saying that although he was useless, he still knew how to fight on the front lines, and could even tame many animals at once. The beast tamer was very surprised to hear about taming many animals at once, because normally beast tamers like them couldn't tame 2, let alone 10. Because if they commanded many at once, their nerves would be fried from the burden. Yet Lin was half doubting because Ren could command dozens of animals with an indifferent face. In the end, Lin decided to push this failed mission onto him alone. To protect the reputation of the hero team, she threatened the beast tamer, making him run away in fear. Although she didn't quite believe it, Mina felt that the words of the guy earlier were quite similar to Ren's. However, Lin didn't want to believe that Ren was a person with superior abilities. Meanwhile, the bandits had been paralyzed by the Count Bees and couldn't move, and Tamed had also brought people to help just in time. But they were just adventurers like him, not the Night Squadron. They were very surprised that Ren dared to confront the entire Black Fang. Everything was going smoothly when suddenly there was a loud roar from behind the door. It was the Demon Lizard King, a creature on par with rank C that the bandits had tamed beforehand for this moment. The Lizard King began to go berserk, using its tail to throw everyone around. Ren flew up and delivered a punch to it. Then Tamed followed up with a blow to its jaw. Ren told everyone to evacuate outside while he and Tamed stayed to fight. Times like this made him remember when he was still with Arios' group. They must have thought he couldn't do anything. But now he was different, and he even had Tamed as his teammate. The people outside were worried and praying for the two of them to be safe. Fortunately, after that, both of them stood safely in front of everyone. In this situation, it seemed that Ren had received recognition from everyone after being kicked out of the hero team for not being able to do anything useful. And above all, just being with Tamed made him feel like he could do anything. Indeed, things are different when a girl enters the picture. After many days of sleeping outdoors, they finally rented a room. Tamed seemed quite pleased with this comfortable bed. But only Ren was shocked because they were pushed by the staff into sharing a room. From the beginning, the young man had wanted to rent separate rooms for them. Not a single room with 2 beds with this cat girl. So the young man volunteered to give up everything and sleep outside, which surprised Tamed. She pulled him back because they had already rented this room for a whole week. Ren had to explain to her that boys and girls can't sleep in the same room. At first, Tamed denied it, saying she wouldn't mind sharing a room with Ren. But then she made an embarrassed, blushing face and awkwardly said that as long as he didn't do anything inappropriate to her, it would be fine. So Ren gave her a lecture on life principles, reminding her not to trust anyone, even himself, because they had just met and didn't know anything about each other. After he finished, Tamed denied that she trusted everyone like she trusted Ren because others weren't like him. From the moment she met him, she already saw him as a teammate. Hearing her words, Ren was a bit shy and smiled, then agreed with Tamed that he wouldn't sleep outside anymore. That night, while he was sound asleep, there was a cat beside him watching him. In her heart, she thought that Ren seemed to be a good person, because before, she always met people who approached her with evil intentions, wanting to exploit something from her like money or fame. Since Tamed was a special rare spirit cat, they always tried to capture her. But the person she met this time, Ren, was different. Ren was only surprised about her and had no other intentions. He had saved her out of pure kindness. He interacted normally with her as a girl, which made her very happy. She also knew about the hurt in his heart from being kicked out of his team, and she really wanted to heal him. Though on the outside he seemed to have moved on, she was sure he still had it lingering in his heart. A week had passed since they met. They had successfully completed commissions, and Ren had advanced to E-rank adventurer. Today they heard from Natalie about a dangerous gatekeeper at Stane Bridge. This was about a thug who always picked fights with anyone crossing that bridge. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, but the number of people using that bridge had decreased, so she enticed Ren to try taking this commission. Since this commission had no rank limit, and moreover, the reward was 5 gold coins, Ren, hearing this shocking salary, accepted without hesitation. Afterward, they went to Stane Bridge. This was the only road from the center of the continent, where Horizon City was located, to the southern continent. Tamed was quite fascinated by the beautiful scenery here, and she was a bit curious about what kind of person this gatekeeper was. Even Ren was curious. He guessed that normally, since there were no fatalities, there should have been statements from victims, but those who were beaten remained silent, so they had no information about the gatekeeper. Because the enemy's true identity was unclear, he always reminded himself not to be careless. At this moment, Tamed had discovered something flying in the sky. Looking closely, it was a rare dragon clan member. Moreover, it was such a cute dragon girl. This girl was from the dragon clan, named Tamed. When she heard herself being called a gatekeeper, she wasn't very pleased, with the demeanor of a noble. Tamed was confident that she had been specially trained from a young age, because in the dragon clan, at 15 years old, they set out on adventures to become truly strong dragons. Tamed really wanted to challenge them because she was looking for strong opponents to fight. And before her now were a top adventurer and a spirit cat clan member, which made her quite interested. Tamed sensed there was no other way. It seemed they had to fight a dragon from the strongest clan. She also reassured Ren to go all out because she was also from one of the strongest clans, so they both agreed to fight Tamed. Right at the beginning, Tamed charged in with the first move, sending him flying away. Then Tamed blew her fire breath at Tamed. Unexpectedly, Tamed couldn't dodge in time, so her cattail, which was her pride, got burned. Feeling quite angry now, Tamed was excited to launch a move to teach Tamed a lesson. Both rushed in and fought in front of Ren, who was amazed by their equal strength. Ren then also advanced to support Tamed, but Tamed unexpectedly blocked it and grabbed both of them, spinning them like crickets. Tamed launched her final move, blasting maximum fire at both of them. Fortunately, in the nick of time, they coordinated to land safely and dodge the great fire. After fighting a battle with the Dragon Clan, Ren knew it wasn't without reason that she was from one of the strongest clans. So now he began to fight in his beast tamer style. Then he left Tamed behind to hold her off for him. The obedient cat obeyed and began to punch Tania repeatedly like a tiger. Meanwhile, Ren concentrated his mind to remember the presence of an animal during the battle earlier. So Ren began to create a temporary contract with an eagle to gather its kind. Ren returned to Tamed with a bunch of eagles that he had just contracted to have them fly over and peck at Tania. Although their pecking power didn't cause major damage, it suddenly made Tania unable to move, because this was the Peter bird species, with a bright appearance indicating it was poisonous. If receiving that amount of poison, even a dragon clan member would be paralyzed and unable to move for a while. Unexpectedly, Tania conceded defeat so easily, surprising both of them. Canet was so happy that she hugged Ren tightly. Ren approached and invited Tania to join them. Tania smiled scornfully, thinking they wanted to sell her to others. But for Ren, it was simply because he just wanted to talk properly with her. Tania stubbornly replied to him that she didn't like it. Not only did Ren not get angry, but he still gave her a gentle smile, which suddenly made Tania feel affection and blush. Just as she was feeling touched, she felt a chill from the displeased cat beside her, startling her. Canet warned this dragon not to bother Ren, or she would be punished like this. Returning to the guild, Natalie was very surprised that he had already chased away the gatekeeper. Natalie thanked him a lot and was quite surprised by the appearance of the bright red guest over there. Looking at those horns and tail, Natalie guessed it might be a dragon clan member, when suddenly Ren interrupted and lied that it was a friend he had just met during the commission. Tania flipped her hair, about to introduce herself in a noble manner, when she was muzzled and dragged away by the two of them. On the way, Ren was discussing something when suddenly Tania disappeared. She disappeared because whenever she saw someone strong, she demanded a one-on-one fight. Time and again, she wanted to introduce her identity, making the two of them have to keep watch until they nearly fainted. When reminded by the two, Tania made an embarrassed face, and then Ren told Tania to leave this city first, because the identity of the gatekeeper should not be spread. As long as she promised not to do this again, he would let her go. Suddenly, Canet remembered why Tania's identity hadn't been spread by the previous people, and the answer was very simple. They were humiliated by being defeated by a girl like her. According to Dragon Clan rules, Tania would now have to go train again. Yet she made the decision to follow them to train, which would be easier. After that, she hugged Ren's neck, confessing that she liked him, making Canet beside her fluff up her fur in annoyance. Moreover, Tania even asked him to form a contract with her. Even Ren didn't expect that he would not only contract with the Spirit Cat clan, but also with the Dragon clan. After creating the contract, a red pattern appeared on Tania's hand. Now she understood what it felt like to be commanded. It was as if it made her always connected to Ren at all times. As for Ren, he felt like he had used up all his luck in life. Ario's group, on the other hand, was having a very difficult time fumbling through the forest for a week with no results. Suddenly, Arios had a thought to lure Ren back to help the group, and after conquering the lost forest, they would discard him once more. Canet and Tania were facing a tension, which was fighting over the bed, while Ren was relaxing, lying on the floor, sleeping soundly, ignoring the world. Finally, Tania also joined Ren's team, and this time the commission they received was to exterminate slimes. Slimes were monsters that many adventurers ignored, leading to them increasingly breeding and frequently causing damage by destroying fields. It seemed that Canet also quite disliked slimes because whenever she punched them, her hands would get sticky all over her body. Hearing this, Tania smugly said that she would use her fireballs to defeat them in no time. Seeing this, Canet made a face of great admiration for Tania because someone was willing to take on the burden. The happiness of the two made Ren very relieved because he was afraid they couldn't get along. After searching for a while, they still didn't see any slimes, so Ren used assimilation to search for the slimes by moving a part of his soul into this bird to fix his consciousness. This way, he would be able to freely control the bird. This was assimilation, one of the beast tamer's skills. Canet and Tania were so surprised that their mouths were agape, not expecting Ren could do something like this. Afterward, he flew off to find the slime's nest and asked the two to help guard his body. A while later, he had led them to the breeding place of the slimes. Canet was planning to handle it quickly and efficiently, but Tania was thinking of letting Ren practice magic. When asked, he replied that he had practiced fireballs with primary healing. Hearing this, Tania urged him to try the fireball magic to deal with them. But Ren said his power wasn't strong enough to handle all those green things, but he still decided to try to concentrate once and release a fireball. Unexpectedly, his power was abnormally strong, causing all the slimes to be completely destroyed. Tanya explained that it was because he had formed a contract with the Dragon Clan, which was her. The magic power of the Dragon Clan was said to be the second highest among the strongest clans, so now inside him, he had the power of a Dragon Clan member. Hearing this, Ren wanted to faint because now inside him, there were two powers from two of the strongest clans, to the extent that he couldn't keep up. After that, Tanya and Tamed together trained Ren's magic power. But who knew that this dragon teacher was so fierce, making Ren exhausted to the point of gasping. But thanks to that, he had learned most of how to control magic power. After receiving payment from the guild and walking out, Ren had taken the two beauties out to eat their fill. But the one who had to gape now was Ren, because the eating capacity of these two was so enormous that even a tycoon couldn't afford to feed them. After eating, Tanya had a question for Ren about where he learned to tame. Ren thought this wasn't a very interesting story, but he still told them about his beast tamer power, which he learned in his hometown. It was a village gathering beast tamers. Both his parents were also beast tamers. That's why when he was born, Ren naturally learned taming, and even the insect taming power he showed Tamed was taught by people in the village. Although it was a small, nameless village, it was once a good place because his hometown no longer existed. Hearing this, both Tanya felt a bit guilty for mentioning Ren's painful past, but they really wanted to hear him tell all about it so they could understand him better. At first, Ren was a bit hesitant, but he thought that anyway, they were his teammates, so he agreed to tell about his past. It was when Ren was 12 years old. That day was when both his father and mother were busy and couldn't watch him practice taming. So he practiced alone at the training ground on the edge of the village. Ren practiced until sunset. When it started to get dark, he realized that although it was dark, the sky was still bright red, feeling something strange, so he ran with all his might back to the village. By the time he arrived, it was too late. The village had been engulfed in flames due to a monster attack, and the only survivor in the village was Ren. Afterward, adventurers realized the disaster and came to rescue him. Since then, Ren lived and worked at an inn owned by an acquaintance of the adventurer who saved him, just living but having to try his best. Life continued like that. Until one day, half a year ago, Ren met Ario's group. By chance, Ario's group was looking for teammates, so they invited him. Ren agreed immediately, thinking that if he joined the hero group, maybe he could do something, and also thought he could prevent the tragedy that happened in his hometown. But no, because reality had slapped Ren in the face. Ario's group only saw him as a convenient pawn for themselves. This story once again made Ren fall into a painful black hole. But suddenly Tamed took his hand and comforted him. She felt that he was a brave hero, always rushing into danger himself and trying very hard. They understood him and knew Ren wanted to become someone's strength, because he didn't want anyone to suffer similarly to himself, so they reassured him that he wasn't pathetic at all. Even Tanya was quite upset with his foolish actions, but on the contrary, both girls felt proud to have a master like him. The next day, they accepted another new commission. This commission was to subjugate orcs, and it was E rank, not much different from goblins, except that orcs were smarter because they knew how to wield weapons to fight. Although Ren always reminded the two not to underestimate these orcs, for a noble like Tanya, she was confident that there was no way she would lose to these orcs. Unexpectedly, just as she said that, during the battle, Tanya was startled because this orc had almost caught her twice. Fortunately, Ren and Tamed appeared in time to rescue her, causing Ren to be slightly injured. Fortunately, he knew healing, so he was fine. Tanya, on the other hand, had a face full of guilt and worry for him, blaming herself. Afterward, they harvested the items and returned to the guild. When they finished, and Ren walked out, he only saw Tamed looking dejected. When he asked, she replied that Tanya didn't seem well and had gone off alone. Tanya was sad on the bridge when she met a child who came to ask what she had exterminated today. The little girl worriedly asked if Tanya was hurt anywhere, and advised her that if she was injured, she should speak up. Tanya, receiving the little girl's consolation, felt a bit more optimistic and thought again that Ren had also been concerned for her. Yet she had ignored it, arrogant that she was from the strongest clan. This made her not know how to face him. Suddenly, Ren appeared before her, making her flustered, and then she bowed her head to apologize to him for what happened earlier. Her tears were about to well up when Ren patted her head and smiled. He comforted her and said that Tamed was also very worried about her. Returning to the inn, Tanya realized that not only was he not angry, but he was afraid something would happen to her. Moreover, he even gave up his bed for her. In that moment, Tanya felt she couldn't get Ren's face out of her mind. Like this, she had to adjust her mind not to be so easy. The next day, they set out on a mission again. Tanya felt it was time they adjusted their equipment. Because they were from the strongest clans, it wasn't a problem. But on the contrary, Ren was a mere mortal, so it was different. They were having fun when suddenly Ren froze because right in front of them was the appearance of Ario's group. They were walking leisurely when they encountered Ario's group coming to greet them. Just seeing the faces of this group made Ren dislike them, so he led Canet and Tanya in another direction. Yet Arios was still thick-skinned enough to call him back and ask why he was as cold as a gecko. Moreover, he put on a fake friendly tone, mentioning their past as teammates, saying they had regretted a lot. Seeing their master being bullied, Canet and Tanya stepped forward, looking cool to protect him. The group was shocked when they saw that beside Ren were two members of the strongest clans. They couldn't believe even more that Ren could command the strongest clans. After that, they invited him again to help them conquer the Lost Forest. Since Ren could control all animals, exploring the forest or transporting luggage would be as easy as turning a hand. His indifferent words made Ren extremely angry. They had kicked him out of the team before, and now they dared to make him carry the burden for them. Moreover, the fluctuating attitudes of each of them made him want to punch them a few times, so he didn't hesitate to refuse immediately. After that, he took the two girls away, but suddenly Mina called him back. She used a nice story about saving the world in front of Ren to soften his heart, because deep in the forest, there was a necessary shield to defeat the Demon Lord. If they couldn't get the shield, they wouldn't be able to defeat the Demon Lord, and monsters would spread all over the world. If one had power, they could fight, but other ordinary people would not be able to. This story made Ren remember his tragic memory. It was the image of the village he once lived in engulfed in flames. This made him struggle psychologically a lot, and his kindness defeated him. Ren agreed to go along and support Ario's group. Yet they not only didn't welcome him but showed contempt for him, as if they could deceive these two beautiful girls. Although unwilling, because their master had decided, the two had no opinion. But on the other hand, both threatened that the group must apologize properly to Ren. Even making them kneel and bow their heads would be acceptable. Arios, being forced to kneel and bow his head, was extremely resentful and shouted loudly. The whole group was proud and felt they were not wrong. Arios stepped forward, grabbed Ren's collar, and scolded him for not knowing how to train his pets. Ren was visibly annoyed when he heard Canet and Tanya being referred to as pets. Hearing his teammates being insulted made Ren punch him and knock him out. Ren's eyes gradually became scary, threatening them not to touch his teammates. So Arios stood up and provoked Ren to challenge him once. Canet and Tanya would be responsible for the other members, while Arios and Ren would fight each other. The first match would be August fighting with the cat. She was extremely angry, wanting to beat him up and make him apologize to her Ren. Canet began to charge like a storm, making him almost unable to block. August began to launch his fire blade technique, which seemed to be too much for Canet, but unexpectedly she kicked him once, making him freeze in place. Seeing that he had already used all his strength, she also decided to use about half of her power to continue fighting. He was dumbfounded by Canet's adorable yet frightening demeanor. His hands and feet were trembling when he heard her say she was only using half of her strength to fight him. Without saying much, Canet took momentum and flew towards him, giving him a kick that made him bleed and fly straight into a tree. On this side, Tanya would be responsible for fighting these two weaklings. Just a snap of her fingers had neutralized their magic. Seeing their dumbfounded faces made Tanya laugh like it was harvest season. The two stubbornly combined magic again with her, but were still made to disappear by Tanya's finger snap, simply because their magic had no effect on her at all. Unable to fight, they began to criticize Tanya's body as a lizard and launched a series of attacks on her. But every time, Tanya snapped away all their magic. Doing this repeatedly made the two lose their fighting spirit and collapse before Tanya. Although she didn't enjoy bullying the weak because they had touched her master, she would teach them a lesson about real magic. The sky gradually became surrounded by dark clouds, making the two weaklings extremely frightened. They thought they would be dealt with by Tanya. Unexpectedly, she was just scaring the two, making them both so scared they nearly fainted. Tanya didn't actually do it because she was afraid Ren would scold her, so she let the two go. At the beginning of the battle, Arios had insulted Ren, but he wasn't angry and struck directly, and so the battle began. Ren felt that indeed, he was fighting a hero and very much acknowledged his swordsmanship. But very quickly, Ren regained the form of a beast tamer, and the power of this attack that he had was due to his contract with Canet and his training to see through his opponent. Since then, Ren had observed Ario's fights, including the number of steps when swinging his sword, his movements when feinting. Ren had grasped Ario's movements to a certain extent, and in each of Ren's attacks was the concentrated power of the two strongest clans. If Ren fought seriously, then he would be the loser, so he advised him to surrender instead. Arios didn't surrender but remained stubborn, so Ren had to use the method from the Count B to paralyze Arios, making him have to accept his defeat. And Ren still held a grudge for him insulting his teammates. Arios had lost, so he resorted to cowardice, trying to rekindle old relationships. But Ren was no longer foolish enough to be led by them anymore. Ren raised his fist and gave Arios a punch. But fortunately for him, he only reduced the power. If he had concentrated on that punch, he would have surely died. At this time, Canet and Tania had also just arrived and rushed straight into Ren's arms. The three of them then went together into the Lost Forest to explore. But this place was indeed very damp and gloomy. Tania even thought about burning this entire forest once, and for all but was stopped by Ren because there were many animals living here. Ren thought about it again and again. If there was a real shield here, only heroes could use it. Ren looked at the map that Ario's group had drawn and felt it was no longer useful because this place had grown and developed at a dizzying speed. Remembering how Tania had scared Ario's group earlier, Ren also felt more relaxed. Arios began to provide information for them to know that apparently the monster in the deepest part of the Lost Forest had a shield of truth. That was the indispensable weapon to defeat the Demon Lord. Although he was providing information, this thick-faced guy still seemed to be putting on airs and hadn't repented, so he was scolded by Canet, and just a pat on the head from Ren made both of them lose all their energy. Both Canet and Tania felt they didn't deserve Ren's help. Tania even thought about defeating the Demon Lord herself if needed. Feeling that the two were worried about him, Ren patted their heads to reassure them. They said everything would be fine. Next, Ren called a bird and planned to assimilate it like before to explore this forest. Canet and Tania would stay behind to be vigilant and guard his body. Flying in the sky, Ren discovered a hidden path. Although narrow, it seemed to lead to the deepest part of the forest. And then Ren returned to guide the two of them. But no matter how far they went, they kept stopping at the place where they had placed a marker for the way back earlier, making all three fall into disappointment. Canet thought they were just on the wrong path. But according to Ren, he had flown following that flock of birds. If it were just him, getting lost would be normal, but there was no way all of them would get lost like this. Even Tania thought like Ren and thought there was some trick being played on this forest. Next, Tania created a magic circle and took them to where they needed to go. Tania had correctly guessed that there was an illusion magic being cast on the center of this tree. That's why they were getting lost. After listening to Tania's explanation for a while, Canet was completely stunned. Tania assigned Canet the task of cutting down this tree because it had been enchanted with magic. Removing it would allow them to move forward. But Ren wondered if there was a way to break the barrier without having to cut down the tree. But Tania sensed that this barrier was very strong. It wasn't that it couldn't be done, but she thought it would take quite a lot of time. Canet was preparing to unleash her punch when suddenly she was frightened by a voice in the air telling them to leave, and from inside the tree appeared a white-haired girl named Sora. Ren quickly recognized that she was from the Spirit Clan. Similar to Canet and Tania, she was also from one of the strongest clans, a magic expert with higher magic power than the Dragon Clan. But more than 200 years ago, the Spirit Clan had hidden themselves from humans. From the beginning, for the Spirit Clan, humans cutting down forests were exactly like their natural enemies. Eventually, conflicts arose between the two sides, and the Spirit Clan hid in remote areas. Since then, the Spirit Clan has hated humans very much. Ren was about to open his mouth to greet her, but was straightforwardly chased away by her. She even planned to eliminate them with her power, making all of them scared and run away with their tails between their legs. They felt strange because why did she attack them? Normally, the Spirit Clan was a peaceful clan. Ren also felt that her appearance from the beginning was already strange. He thought it was because they were approaching that barrier. Ren felt very strange because even if they really hated humans, would there be cooperation with monsters? Before Ren could finish thinking, Tania decided to still move forward. She would be responsible for suppressing the magic of that little girl. During that time, Canet would cut down the tree. As long as Tania didn't defeat that little girl, it would be according to Ren's wish. But unexpectedly, the young man still had the mindset of wanting to negotiate with that little girl again, making both of them shocked beyond words at his naivety. But then they still had to accommodate Ren's kind thinking. The little girl from earlier, seeing them come again this time, showed her anger and chased them away. Ignoring Ren's words, the little girl immediately set up magic to eliminate them. Kenneth and Tanya sensed danger, and were about to charge forward but were stopped by him. Ren thought that he could withstand these attacks, and he definitely wouldn't give up because he was a beast tamer. As long as he seriously faced it, he would clearly convey emotions to each other. So Ren didn't blame the attacks, which made the little girl very surprised. Sora couldn't understand his actions and questioned whether he was a real human or not, because she feared that he would be like the humans who had harmed her home. Although he couldn't affirm that he wasn't a bad person, Ren really wanted Sora to trust that he wouldn't harm them. Sora remained calm, not tempted by his words, and then she shot an arrow at him again. But fortunately, this time Kenneth and Tanya were able to stop it. Both had to speak up to explain on behalf of Ren that he was not a good person. Hearing them argue in front of her, Sora felt that humans were strange, and even the Dragon Clan and Spirit Cat Clan were strange, because Sora had never met people like them before. Finally, Sora agreed to sit down and talk with them. When she heard Ren tell about going to find the Shield of Truth to help the hero team but being caught in this barrier, Sora explained that it was a barrier she had deployed, and she couldn't let them break it, because that barrier cut off the path leading to the Spirit Clan's village. She couldn't let her fellow clansmen be in danger. But Tanya said, "Isn't what you're doing just covering for monsters?" Sora replied that there was no Shield of Truth in this forest. In the deepest area, there was only the path leading to the Spirit Clan village. The Shield of Truth was being kept by the Spirit Clan. Now they knew the hero team had been fooled. Sora also said that if they needed to defeat the Demon Lord, she would lend it to them. After that, she disappeared for a few beats and then returned, holding a large shield with an expressionless face, which surprised Ren. Although she hated humans, she couldn't forgive monsters even more. Here, the three received the shield easily and wanted to offer something in return. But Sora had refused because this Shield of Truth had already been agreed upon long ago by the Spirit Clan and the previous heroes, so Sora was just following that. After receiving the shield, the three thanked Sora and returned to the city. Looking at their silhouettes as they left, it seemed Sora wanted to say something. It seemed Ren had noticed this, so he returned to ask her. Sora hesitated, having some difficulty speaking, because if she said more, Ren's group would lend her their strength, and that would involve them in her business. So the little girl had refused, but was interrupted by Ren's words. He said that no matter how dangerous it was, they wouldn't mind. Tanya and Kenneth also spoke up, saying they would help the little girl wholeheartedly. After realizing they were people she could trust, Sora decided to speak up. The little girl had another twin sister named Rena. That little girl had a very different personality, but was very harmonious. The two sisters were the managers of the barrier leading to the hiding place of the Spirit Clan. Although the job was a bit boring, whenever the sisters were together, Sora was very happy. But one day, because Sora's group had business, they went outside the barrier a bit. There, Sora's group encountered a monster calling itself the Demon Lord. Although they tried to run away, they were still caught up by him, and they had to fight him. But not only could they not defeat him, but Rena was also captured by him. The name of that monster was the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was a C-rank monster. Normally, it wouldn't be an opponent that the strongest clan would lose to. But this guy's characteristics were quite annoying. He could nullify magic attacks, so only physical attacks would be effective against the Dark Knight. And the Spirit Clan was a species specializing in magic, so there was a terribly incompatible relationship. According to Sora, the goal of the Dark Knight was to eradicate his enemies, which were the strongest clans. He had ordered Sora to remove the barrier if she wanted to save Rena. But she couldn't agree to this request because it involved the danger of her entire clan. She alone couldn't do anything, so she had sought help from the village chief. But he told her to give up on Rena because it was the carelessness of both of them when they left the safe barrier. Even Tanya thought the village chief was too much. Now Sora didn't know whether she should choose her sister's life or the entire village. This made her very frustrated and heartbroken. Seeing the little girl so sad, Ren offered to help her rescue her sister, making the little girl grateful as she leaned into his chest and cried loudly. The Dark Knight had ordered Sora to remove the forest barrier before sunset today. If not, her sister wouldn't be safe, so Ren's group quickly hurried to find him. Sora expressed that she really wanted to go along, but Ren reassured her to stay behind because if she went along, he would think she was betraying him and might harm Runna. That night, they saw with their own eyes the Dark Knight and, along with him, Runna being tied up high above. The three of them seized the opportunity and began to charge forward to gang up on the Dark Knight. They used magic to attract his attention, and then Tamed rushed forward to deliver a physical blow to his head. Then Ren punched him straight in the stomach, but with such attacks, that guy still wasn't defeated. The Dark Knight mistook Ren for a hero and also knew that Sora had asked them for help, which made him angry because he felt betrayed. The Dark Knight immediately tried to eliminate Runna, but fortunately, Tanya's dragon wings blocked it. Tanya untied and rescued the little girl and left the rest to the two of them. The angry knight began to unleash his moves. In an instant, Ren guessed that the reason he could infiltrate the Spirit Clan village alone was thanks to the monster power from the Demon Lord. Ren felt it wasn't good. If he kept doing this forest would be completely destroyed. So he assigned Tamed to stop his movement and put all his strength into punching him. But Tamed feared that with his bull-like strength, her punch might not be enough, but she still obeyed Ren's order. Meanwhile, Ren on this side would focus on forming a temporary contract to call the Count Bees once more. Although he knew these Count Bees couldn't paralyze him, they could distract him a bit and make it convenient for Tamed to deal with him with a punch. Ren had created a strengthening magic on Tamed, making her power flow even stronger. As Ren predicted, that punch caused the Dark Knight to vanish in a beat. Tamed was quite pleased with the power Ren had given her. He explained that it was the unique magic skill of Beast Tamers, a magic that amplifies her inherent strength for a short time. Because previously he lacked magic power, he couldn't do it. But now that he had additional magic power from Tanya, he had successfully done it. At this time, Tanya also appeared with Runna safely in her arms. Tanya was even surprised because the strengthening skill was a lost technique. Yet Ren could learn it too. Ren could only scratch his head and say every time that it just came naturally. Everyone was very happy with their success. The noise had awakened little Runna. They had reunited the two sisters, Sora and Runna. Sora was very grateful for that. If it weren't for Ren's group, Runna wouldn't know what other terrifying punishments she would have to endure. But these images were just Ren's imagination. So the two sisters returned to normal, like everyone else, disagreeing and arguing. Ren felt that although the sisters looked identical, their personalities were like heaven and earth. But it seemed the two sisters didn't want to stay here on guard anymore, because Sora didn't want to live with people who wanted to abandon her sister. They also wanted to see the outside world, not just stay cooped up in the forest. After hearing this, Tamed went over to invite them to join Ren's group for fun. Tanya didn't object to this idea. As for Ren, he was worried about the two sisters, fearing they might be uncomfortable when joining a human team. But Sora shyly said, "Didn't he say that humans also have good and bad people?" Although she didn't know what those other people were like, but for Ren, she also wanted to go on an adventure. Hearing the two sisters speak like that, Ren was also happy to welcome them. And then the sisters also demanded to form a contract like Tamed and Tanya. Speaking of commanding the Spirit Clan, Ren felt it was a bit difficult because each species has a different structure. He could use the basic taming method, but with the Spirit Clan, it was beyond his scope. He felt it was like a challenge for him. Ren began to perform the contract magic to be able to bind both Sora and Runna at once. Finally, creating a contract for the two sisters was also successful, but it seemed to consume too much energy for one of the strongest clans, making Ren a bit tired and falling down. Fortunately, the two sisters Sora caught him. Seeing this scene, the two sisters Tamed and Tanya were jealous. After completing the commission, Ren went to the hero group himself. He raised the Shield of Truth, which made everyone amazed. Arios was still resentful because he could conquer it in just 2 days, while they had to spend a whole week and still couldn't do it, and he even thought it was fake. Ren couldn't say anything, so he let them check it themselves to see clearly. Mina began conducting magic verification on the shield and had proven that it was 100% genuine, although Arios couldn't believe it, and then he inadvertently glanced over at 2 new faces and was curious. Ren stood in front of him and told him not to mind them. Fortunately, Ren had told the two to hide their wings, because if people knew the Spirit Clan had come down to the human village, there would likely be a big shock. Right after that, Ren demanded their payment. After confirming the completion of the commission, Ren vowed to himself that he would never get involved with this group again. Suddenly, August called Ren back and asked if he wanted to return to the team. This statement made Arios furious and scolded him. August wanted everyone to think together. Through recent events, surely everyone would understand that Ren's support was necessary. They thought for a while, and no one objected. And then August went to call Ren and agreed with him that he promised to improve the remuneration and treatment for him, and even welcome Ren as a teammate to adventure together. But this guy told Ren not to dwell on the past, which made him pause for a moment. He felt these guys hadn't changed at all compared to before. Ren felt he was really stupid. At this time, Kanet's group had stepped out and reassured Ren's spirit. She extended her hand, saying they were waiting for him. Seeing Ren seemingly refusing, August tried to persuade him that if he could defeat the Demon Lord, he would not only gain status and fame, but also a huge amount of money. But for Ren, he didn't need those things, because what he wanted was teammates, but they still hadn't changed, and now it was good that what he originally wanted was already right here. Arios' group, unable to invite him, resorted to resentment and cursing. Only Arios sat back, reflecting on when he fought with Ren. That pain was not just pain, but it was also a humiliation that couldn't disappear. He couldn't believe a hero like himself was defeated by that guy. Arios held a grudge, determined to eliminate Ren with his own hands. On this side, they were quite curious about why only heroes could defeat the Demon Lord. And Ren had explained that according to legend, the Demon Lord had ruled over humans with great power, making them unable to resist. The first-generation hero had formed a contract with the gods to destroy the Demon Lord and received their blood into his body. And he had defeated the Demon Lord, liberated humans, and brought a peaceful world. They felt that the first-generation hero was amazing compared to today's heroes, which were like heaven and earth. So that's why only heroes, those who carry the blood of the gods, can develop without limits and accumulate power, and then use that power to defeat the Demon Lord. But Kanet felt that a weakling like Arios didn't seem like it at all. And as Sora thought, if according to that logic, she saw that Ren was also like a hero, because he could form contracts with all three strongest clans and absorb the new abilities of all three clans. They saw that he had already exceeded the scope of human development. It was like breaking the limit to become a hero, wasn't it? Kanet also felt that if Ren formed contracts with many of the strongest clans and increased his power rapidly, perhaps Ren would have enough power to destroy the Demon Lord. Hearing them elevate him like that made him quite confused. It was true that when he was still in the hero team, he had taken that goal as his effort, but since being kicked out, that goal had disappeared for him. Now he had met Arios' group and lived happily. But honestly, if he could do it, he would also like to try fighting. But in the situation of defeating the Demon Lord, it would be different from doing normal commissions because it involved many human lives, which made him not quite ready. He still didn't have the strength to decide like that, because it was also due to everyone's support that he had today. But anyway, it was already too late, so Ren also tried to think once and then answer them later. Ren also felt that this was perhaps the moment he chose his own path, and it was approaching as well. Early in the morning, Ren was awakened by a cloth thrown in his face. Today, Ren's entire group sat together for breakfast. They chatted about Ren's strength getting stronger after forming contracts with the two sisters, Sora. Ren also gave them a good meal because of the payment from Arios' commission. Ren also decided to buy new equipment in town. On the way, the two sisters Sora held tightly onto Ren's arms because they were afraid their spirit clan identity would be discovered. While being vigilant and cautious, the little ones were frightened by Tania's underlings who came looking for her. They were the two guys whom Tania had beaten at Stain Bridge, breaking their noses. Hearing them flatter her made big sister Tania very proud. Meanwhile, Kanet was chatting with a fruit seller by the roadside and was given an apple because earlier, Kanet had helped her carry things. Seeing Kanet and Tania integrating with humans made the two sisters quite surprised. Suddenly, a group of human children appeared in front of them, startling them. A little kid teased Ren, saying, "Have you brought home more wives?" which made the two sisters shy. Being praised as cute by the children made Sora feel even more embarrassed. But on the contrary, Rana laughed loudly and even thought about threatening them a bit, almost revealing their identity. Fortunately, Ren and Sora stopped her in time. Sora had warned Rana that if she performed magic, the spirit clan wings would appear. If humans discovered it, it would be very troublesome. Finally, they arrived at the #1 weapon shop in town. The owner of this weapon shop was a grumpy dwarf. Kanet was quite scared of this strict owner. But on the contrary, Tania only felt that these dwarves were just weirdos. Hearing this, the owner gave her a side glance, which frightened Kanet. On this side, Rana found a whip weapon that made her curious. She thought that when mentioning beast tamers, they should use this item, right? Because using it to whip those who don't obey, what else? Indeed, Rana's dark mind made Sora scared stiff. As for Ren, he quickly chose a sharp knife that fit his hand. He had a strange feeling when holding it, although it didn't look bad at all. At this time, a tall, muscular guy walked in, threw a chunk of money at the shop owner, and wanted to order the most luxurious sword suitable for him. The owner quickly went to get the smallest long sword to sell to him. At this time, Ren went to ask the shop owner. He suspected that he was hiding something because looking at the outside of the sword, he didn't think they were the best swords. Suddenly, everyone fell into silence, and then the owner smiled and praised Ren for having a good eye. Similar to the earlier knife, all the ones here were things he crafted during his idle time. In other words, he was overcharging. Seeing this, the sisters Sora had to reevaluate the dwarf. The shop owner was quite annoyed with the words of these kids, so he showed off his passionate collection for them to see. Ren wondered that he could make such extraordinary things, yet he was playing tricks on customers like this. The shop owner just felt this was a small test for them, because recently, there were only customers who didn't think about their abilities and suitability but only knew to throw a pile of money and then request high-end weapons. The weapons that he wholeheartedly crafted were then thrown away after new models appeared. That scene made him extremely frustrated. For a blacksmith like him, products were like his children. Suddenly, after hearing this, Tanya appeared from somewhere, rushing towards the owner and expressing that she really understood him, which made the owner very happy. After talking for a while, the dwarf owner quite liked Ren, so he agreed to make a high-end weapon specifically for him. But there was a condition: he didn't have the materials. Just when they were excitedly listening to this, everyone froze. Afterward, Ren's group returned to the guild. Seeing everyone gathered in a lively crowd today, Kenneth ran to ask Sister Natalie and learned that Hero Arios was staying here to recruit supporting members to defeat the Demon Lord. Mentioning this, Ren's face became somber, but he didn't want Kenneth and Tanya to worry about him, so he patted their heads, saying he was fine. At this time, Natalie noticed the presence of the two Spirit Clan sisters and greeted them. Sora hid behind Ren and introduced herself shyly, but Rana confidently stood in front, clearly introducing her full name to her. When Natalie asked about their relationship, Rana gave a dark answer, making Natalie misunderstand that Ren dared to lay hands on little kids. This forced Ren to quickly explain to Natalie. After that, Ren handed in a commission request for Natalie to approve. In the request, they had asked to investigate the Midran mine from Mr. Gans, the weapon shop owner. According to what Tanya knew, any weapon made from Midran would be so wonderful that it could be used for a lifetime. Although it was quite rare, his ancestors had passed down the mine to him, which was why he wasn't short of materials. But recently, it seemed there was no sign of Midran ore anywhere. Ren didn't think it had been mined out because if the minerals were depleted, the output would certainly decrease gradually. But if it suddenly disappeared strangely, he thought perhaps the cause originated from the mine. Without him saying it, Kenneth and Tanya already knew what he wanted to do. So Ren had suggested to the owner to let them investigate the mine. Seeing Ren's eyes full of passion and trust, he agreed to their request. When Mr. Gans mentioned the payment to compensate them after helping him, Ren didn't need money. He just wanted to own the weapons he crafted. This surprised the owner, and he happily agreed. Afterward, the group set off. Today, the path to this mine was quite close, so they felt like they were on a picnic. On the contrary, behind the two sisters Sora, Rana was tired to the point of gasping, dizzy, and spinning, and then they couldn't stand it anymore and dissolved like ice. They rested for a while, feeling the weather was too hot. Fortunately, in front of them was a cool lake. Because it was so suitable for soaking, they begged Ren to let them go down for a bath. Before Ren could finish his instructions, Kenneth had already stripped off all her clothes. Fortunately, Tanya stopped her in time. To be sure, Ren had temporarily contracted with a squirrel so that if there was danger, it would immediately report to Kenneth's group. As for Ren, he would sink into a short sleep. On this side, the sisters were soaking in the water when suddenly the two little ones kept spreading their legs. Kenneth and Tanya asked and found out they wanted to know the secret of how to get big breasts like theirs. Kenneth and Tanya just comforted them, saying they would eventually grow as big. They were teasing and having fun when something in the water startled Kenneth, making her scream loudly. Ren, who was sleeping, also jumped up and ran towards her to see what was happening. But actually, it was just Rana dipping her hand into a fish to scare Kenneth. Ren's appearance made everyone startled, and he turned his face away in embarrassment. Right after that, the young man had to apologize before the sisters' court. Unexpectedly, Tamed and Tanya weren't angry, but were very happy that he heard their screams and had run to worry about them. Ren was forgiven by the sisters and became happy again. Finally, after the troubles, they reached the Midran mine. They hid in a place to observe. According to Ren's thoughts, this place had the phenomenon of illegal mining, and the movement of the bird in the sky was like signaling to its master. As predicted, the illegal miners had discovered someone, so they stepped out fiercely. Ren felt that in this situation, they also had to step out to confront them, so he told the sisters to go easy. But going easy made them all lose consciousness, resulting in Ren not being able to interrogate them for information. Suddenly, Sora suggested that she could view their memories with magic. The two sisters began to view their memories and found out that Ren had guessed correctly. The little girl saw images of these men illegally mining, and they were also adventurers. After helping Ren, the two sisters requested to be patted on the head like Tamed and Tanya whenever they were rewarded. Having no choice, Ren also indulged them by patting the two little ones' heads, making them very happy. This time, they would infiltrate the mine, and Ren warned them to prepare mentally when their identities were discovered because they were being observed by the enemy from the sky. He was sure that on the enemy's side, there was also a beast tamer. As soon as they entered the mine, they received a magic fireball hurtling toward them. Fortunately, the two sisters Sora and Rana were standing in front to block it. The two sisters wanted to quickly resolve the issue to get Ren to pat their heads again. Tanya and Tamed also quickly joined in to help them. The remaining person, Ren would handle. He committed the crime of illegal mining but still wouldn't surrender, even holding a knife wanting to stab Ren, but was still knocked down by Ren. He still wouldn't admit defeat and summoned a rank B monster, Behemoth, to fight. Tanya's group had realized that this guy was a monster tamer. Logically speaking, taming monsters requires several times the normal technique and magic power. He had introduced that this was a monster he had encountered since it was newborn and raised it until now, so it wouldn't be hostile to him. The Behemoth received the order and rushed toward Ren to attack. Its attack power was too great. They feared this mine would collapse. While fighting the monster, Ren had signaled to them to bring the remaining people outside to safety first. Outside would be looked after by Tanya, while Tamed would go in to help Ren. Ren instructed Tamed to neutralize that man for him, while he would be responsible for fighting the Behemoth because it was acting on that man's orders. Instead, to stop it, they had to catch that man, which would be faster. Indeed, the Behemoth hit very hard, but its attacks were too simple. Now he had clearly grasped its movement pattern, so there was no way it could land a hit. However, if not resolved soon, this mine wouldn't last long. On this side, Tamed had just managed to shut up that man. Ren at this time had thought of a method to defeat that monster, but he was afraid he couldn't do it. Fortunately, in Ren's memory at this moment, echoing words of encouragement from Tamed made him decide to believe in himself to not let everyone down. Ren had successfully tamed the Behemoth and brought it under his control. He had overridden the man's dominion over the Behemoth. Originally, stealing the dominion of a beast tamer was impossible, but he had thought if he had the strength as everyone said, then it might be possible. The man still couldn't accept the fact that he had lost his dominion over the Behemoth, so he had tried to stuff his own command into it to stimulate its abilities. Unexpectedly, the man was attacked by it. In the dangerous moment, Ren timely stopped the Behemoth with a fireball to knock it out. The man finally didn't understand why he had failed, so Ren explained that between monsters and humans, even with taming, hostility couldn't be eliminated, because it had reacted to his hostility, causing it to lose control. Therefore, Ren had to hold it back to control it. After hearing the story about the illegal mining group, he learned that they all had something in common. They had bought weapons from Mr. Gans. They had bought fake goods that he had made during his idle time. When they discovered it, they had thought about revenge by stealing Midran, so he couldn't forge weapons anymore. When Mr. Gans was informed, he was quite troubled. He also felt guilty for playing dishonest tricks with both customers and weapons as a test. Ren didn't argue and still agreed with the owner's disappointment, and he placed his hand on Mr. Gans's, advising him to just correct it. Because he knew everyone would make mistakes, and we just need to know and correct them. He advised him to put all his effort into crafting each weapon as before, and it would be fine. Mr. Gans, at his age, was being taught by a child, but he wasn't annoyed and would try to change in a more positive way. For a start, Mr. Gans would begin crafting a weapon for Ren. Hearing this, he whispered to the owner that he wanted it crafted according to his own idea. They were talking secretly, which made Kanet's group quite curious. Meanwhile, Ario's group was busy recruiting additional supporting members but couldn't find anyone satisfactory. Even though a beast tamer came to apply, because he could only command one animal and couldn't even fight, Arios rejected him outright. He was even very confused when Arios asked if he could command the strongest clan as well, because for a human beast tamer, commanding the strongest clan was impossible. When Arios had eliminated the last person, he showed an attitude of boredom and fatigue. Mina felt that not only the man from earlier, but also others who had participated in the recruitment all had abilities that could qualify for the role of support. But Arios still wasn't satisfied with anyone, and they were also being compared to Ren. She felt that if this situation continued, they wouldn't be able to continue their journey, and the task of defeating the Demon Lord would remain distant. So she had gone to tell Arios that his selection criteria were a bit harsh on them, but was rebuffed by him. It was precisely because Ren was no longer there that this anger was automatically directed at her. Although dissatisfied, Mina still gritted her teeth and endured, only because this was the mission of a servant of the gods. After saying that, Arios had let Mina return to rest. Before leaving, she had advised him not to worry too much because his mission was to save this world. But for Arios, he didn't feel that way. Because before saving the world, his first priority was to eliminate Ren by all means. The next day, Ren came to the guild, asking about what happened to those who had illegally mined Mr. Gans's mine. Natalie had revealed that they had been stripped of their adventure status after that incident and had to become forced laborers. Because illegal mining and raising monsters were two very serious crimes, she thought that was an appropriate punishment. Ren walked out with a dejected face, informing the two sisters Sora and Runa about what had just happened. Ren then took the two sisters to tour the food market and bought them 2 delicious hot dogs. Because they were so good, they ate them in a few beats and then regretted it. At this time, Runa wanted to ask Ren about the abilities that after he had formed a contract with the two sisters, because he had already had physical abilities from Kanet and enhancement magic from Tanya. So they wanted to know what had changed after he formed a contract with the two sisters. Although the two little girls were very eager for Ren's answer, even Ren didn't know if he had anything special. His cold answer made the two sisters fall into panic and confusion. They were sure he also had the ultimate magic of their clan, because ultimate magic is a secret technique far beyond high class and super class that only their spirit clan could use. Although Sora's group hadn't been able to do it, they were hoping Ren would receive it. But unexpectedly, the more they talked, the less Ren understood, making the two sisters disappointed because after forming the contract, there was nothing like the two senior sisters. They even named themselves failed familiars, making Ren confused and not knowing what to do. So he patted their heads to comfort them, telling them not to be sad and blame themselves like that. They wondered why Ren trusted them so much. Because they were people who had been abandoned by the village and had encountered bad things. They felt Ren was very different because beside him, though he already had strong people, he still needed them. So Ren sat down to explain in detail to them. He even told about his sad past as a person lacking confidence, always trying to appear useful, but still ended up being kicked out. So he had learned from experience. He wanted to build trust with the teammates he wanted to accompany. And that included Sora and Runa as Ren's teammates, even without the contract ability. After hearing this story, the two little ones were also more spirited and optimistic, which made Ren very relieved. They were walking when they encountered a blonde troublemaker. His words frightened the sisters. They thought it was something serious, but it turned out to be just a playboy allowing the two of them to be his women. Hearing that, the two looked down on him with contempt. The blonde playboy had just gone out and spotted 2 beauties on the street. Sora's face turned pale green with fear as a man she had just met for the first time allowed her to be his woman. Meanwhile, Runa beside her was scolding him, calling him a fool. The more they spoke like that, the more interesting he found them. This man's name was Aga Frogware, the son of the lord who ruled this Horizon city. He kept inviting them, but the sisters Sora wouldn't agree, so he had to resort to strong measures. He thought having more underlings would win, but unexpectedly, all were beaten by Ren in a few beats. Yet Iga still wouldn't give up, wanting to have the two sisters at all costs. Therefore, he used the townspeople as punishment to force him to hand over the sisters. He considered the people just as his tools, so he didn't care. In Ren's subconscious, the positions of the opponents were scattered. If he saved someone, the others would be hurt, making him not know how to handle it. Although the two sisters wanted to help, he feared that if they used magic, people would discover they were from the spirit clan. After doing so, they might not be able to live freely in the city anymore. The two sisters had been so happy, and Ren couldn't bear to let them be like that. While finding a method, Ren had a flash of an idea. He had to take a risk. He had used continuous chanting for the fireball magic. That was still a special skill of the spirit clan, so Sora and Runa had immediately recognized it. Only this would make the opposing side afraid and retreat. Sora's group also came to thank Ren for protecting their group, and there were also people in the town who greatly admired a beast tamer like him. An old lady had suddenly advised them to quickly flee from here, which surprised them quite a bit. Somewhere, Ren didn't realize that Arios was standing on one side, observing him closely. Returning home, the two sisters were excitedly telling Kanet and Tania about Ren's new skill from their spirit clan. Ren also felt that way, because with this continuous chanting, both the power and accuracy, Ren had mastered it better than during his special training, thanks to forming a contract with them. Now the Runa sisters could also hold their heads a bit higher because they were also excellent familiars like Kanet's group. It was fortunate that they were safe, so Tania and Kanet were temporarily at ease. Ren heard people in the city tell stories, and he realized he was a more terrible person than they thought. He kidnapped and imprisoned females he liked in the mansion, and was said to abuse them too. The Lord also spoiled Aga too much because he was his only son, so all of Aga's wrongdoings were quickly destroyed without evidence. Tania, with her hot temper, even wanted to go burn down the Lord's mansion right away because she thought they would eventually target Sora's group, Ren, or even the people in the city. Ren quietly thought that after he had learned all the dark parts of this city, he wanted to save everyone even more. But he was only hindered by the fact that he was just a beast tamer, not a brave hero. At this time, looking at his contemplation, Kanet and Tania had already guessed his thoughts. They knew that although he wanted to save everyone, he was wary of the opponent who had power. Therefore, he was hesitating between them and the people in the city. They said that not only Ren, but they also really wanted to protect this city. Recognizing everyone's support made Ren feel empowered, determined to rescue this city together. Meanwhile, Ego was ordering soldiers to cover up the damage that had occurred in the afternoon and also told them to find out about Ren and bring him to him, because he hated Ren for giving him such a humiliating defeat that he couldn't overlook. In his anger, he had called a little girl with a beast person appearance to torture continuously. On this side, Ren and Kanet together went to the night squadron to submit a damage report. When he heard them request an investigation into the violent behavior of Iga, the Lord's son, she changed her expression to one of extreme fear. She stuttered, not knowing how to answer. Then a group of soldiers stood up to talk to Ren. They had said it was just a small dispute, so they wouldn't intervene to investigate. Moreover, they even sneered at Ren, warning him to be careful of being charged with damaging Lord Iga's reputation. Their attitude seemed unhelpful, so Ren returned, because he knew they were covering up Iga's case, so even if they investigated, they wouldn't find evidence. Suddenly, Kanet had sensed someone watching them. It was a female knight named Stella. She was misunderstood as following them, so she bowed her head in apology, which surprised Ren quite a bit because he didn't expect a knight with high self-esteem to bow to them. Stella was a female knight currently serving as the deputy of the Horizon Knight Squadron branch. They were surprised because before talking, Stella thanked them. Previously, Stella had heard about an adventurer along with a young lady from the Spirit Cat clan who had destroyed the Black Fang criminal gang. And even she, as a knight, had never been able to do anything. So she really wanted to prosecute the wrongdoings of the Lord's group and expressed her desire to cooperate with Ren's group. Because of collusion with the Lord's group, the knights had forgotten their duties, only knew how to indulge in debauchery, and even covered up the crimes of the Lord or his son, even showing contempt for the people they were supposed to protect. The leading captain, Juliet, was also like that, so Stellar really wanted the Knight Squadron to return to its original nature. She had observed the appearance of the two when they were denouncing Iga's crimes. It gave her a glimmer of hope or some kind of turning point. Stella begged Ren if he could lend her that strength to fulfill her wish. Ren was a bit suspicious that this was a trap, but Kanet had assured him that Stella was not a bad person, because she didn't have any uncomfortable feeling. Hearing Kanet's judgment, Ren had agreed to cooperate with Stella. She asked Ren why he had the intention to denounce the Lord's son. When she heard him say, it was just because he saw it, so he would do it, it made Stella laugh heartily. Not because she looked down on him, but because he answered too seriously, and his personality made her quite likable. After saying that, it seemed Stella was moved, so she shed tears. To comfort her, Ren had shaken hands with Stella as a word of encouragement. The first step, Ren would help her clean up the night squadron by setting a trap for them. That was to spread a rumor that there was evidence showing the collusion between Captain Juliet and the Lord being hidden in a warehouse outside the city. Juliet also didn't believe it much because if that rumor was true, they would be finished. So he wanted to handle it carefully and quickly to deceive the immature knights who still embraced the bland dream of knighthood. Juliet had ordered the soldiers to begin the operation. Unexpectedly, when they entered, they were blocked by Sora and Runna's group. Inside the warehouse, Ren had used the weapon he had just purchased from the dwarf shop owner. It was an excellent armor that helped him hit with 100% accuracy. The last shot he reserved for Juliet, but he had discovered it and dodged. Recognizing her colleague, Juliet was very surprised. Stella also didn't hide and told him that her teammates and subordinates were suppressing the entire Night Squadron branch, and there was also evidence of his corruption. When Juliet heard Stella mention Ren's name, he was like being awakened and swung his sword to deal with him to hand over to Lord Aga. Stella was very angry, wanting to step forward to end this herself. Juliet threatened that she would be executed for treason, and then he charged forward to fight her. In reality, Stella was no match for him, but she still wasn't afraid and stood up to continue fighting. She was determined to thrust a powerful knife, making him fall down. Meanwhile, Aga was torturing the little girl because she had told him that Juliet's group had been caught, and now Stella was holding the Night Squadron. Although about to be cornered, he was still indifferently optimistic that he still had a number of troops at home, which was enough. Suddenly, there was a faint voice by the window. It was Arios who had disguised himself and proposed cooperation with him to fight against Ren. When he heard that Ren was someone who could command the strongest clan and would steal all his status, fame, money, and women, Aga was extremely angry. At this time, Arios had thrown him a ring full of magic power and told him to use it to finish off Ren. The negativity and hatred in Aga had clearly manifested outside, making Arios very satisfied because it would further increase the power of that ring. Stella, having been promoted to captain of the Night Squadron, began conducting an investigation. She led soldiers to the mansion, requesting an urgent investigation of the Lord. She also announced that Juliet, the former captain, had been arrested for bribery. Stella's request was denied, and they sent a group of soldiers to block her. If that was the case, Stella's group had to put on armor to prepare for an attack, and this time they had the support of two beautiful girls, Kanat and Tania. Inside the mansion, Iga observed them fighting outside and mocked them. He had also seen the two strongest clans that Ren was commanding entering inside. He would use this ring to dissolve their contracts, making them lose their reason to fight. Instead, he would become their new master. On this side, Ren had successfully created a diversion and infiltrated the mansion. Their mission was to rescue the hostages. But Runna was too noisy, making Sora and Ren afraid that Iga would discover them and break their necks. After that, Runna and Sora performed a search magic. When they found people, they would evacuate them to a safe place using teleportation. This way, Kanat's group, which was creating a diversion, could unleash their power. And then they would capture the father and son lords, obtain evidence of corruption, and the victory would lean toward their side. At this time, Runna felt strange because if humans were captured, the large amount of magic power in the basement couldn't be mistaken. But Runna could sense a gigantic reaction that wasn't human, and this amount of magic power was on par with the sisters. Ren had suspected that it was also one of the strongest clans, but he didn't understand why there would be one of the strongest clans here. Ren left Sora and Runna to continue searching, while he would go to identify that magic power. Because in this situation, overlooking a character with unclear identity would be a bad move. Sora and Runna were quite worried about Ren going alone because that magic power was on par with them. But they still drooped because Ren had patted their heads to reassure them that he would be fine. Ren also felt guilty because to save everyone, the identities of the two were exposed. Runna stood up and suggested to him that if he didn't return safely, she would punish him by making him pat them 100 times. Ren began to investigate. He inadvertently suspected this room, so he entered. It was quite surprising because this room had a sturdy steel cage, and the person imprisoned inside looked like a fox with 3 tails. He couldn't be mistaken because it was one of the strongest clans, the God clan. He immediately destroyed the lock and rushed in to treat the little girl, which frightened her greatly. The little girl named Nina, hearing that he was her ally, grieved and hugged Ren tightly. Nina belonged to the God clan, one of the strongest clans. The little girl had lived very happily in a village. Day by day, she immersed herself in good sleep, or met kind villagers who cherished her. Until one day, the appearance of Iga changed Nina's life. He forced her to become his prisoner, or the kind villagers here would be punished. Nina was shy and only obeyed his orders and put on a slave collar that was enchanted with magic. After that, he tortured and abused the little girl for the satisfaction of his sick desires. The little girl had to endure the painful injuries alone, which made Nina very scared. Ren wanted to save Nina, but she said that this collar was enchanted with very strong magic power. Ren assured her that she could trust him, so the little girl obediently sat waiting for him to save her. Ren wanted to try the magic of stealing dominion with his power again, but it seemed the collar was too strong, making him look very painful. Seeing Ren suffering like that, Nina blamed herself even more. Suddenly, Ren remembered that he not only had power, but he also had the enormous strength of Tamed, and even the two sisters Sora and Rana. So Ren gathered all of everyone's power and performed magic, successfully breaking that collar for Nina. Outside the city, they were fiercely fighting with the soldiers. Seeing that they couldn't defeat Kanet's group, they took hostages from the basement as bait. Unexpectedly, on this side, the sisters Sora and Rana had just finished dealing with the rest and brought all the hostages to a safe place. Outside was left to them, and Stella would charge into the mansion to capture the father and son lords. In the mansion, the lord, seeing the instability, ran to tell his son. Iga told his father to run first, while he would stay behind to destroy the evidence of corruption. When everyone entered the mansion, he had just rescued Nina out. Everyone was quite surprised when they saw another of the strongest clans, so they scolded him again for getting involved with girls again. Ren was confused and didn't know how to answer because he seemed to attract girls all the time. Sora also felt it was rare because the God clan was always worshipped by humans. They shouldn't appear before humans much, but now she was here. Kanet seemed very interested in Nina's soft fur. The little girl, although a bit shy, still obediently listened. Stella had also just entered and was very thankful to Ren. Thanks to him, she was able to carry out her plan. At this time, the Lord was holding things and running away when he met everyone already waiting fully in the hall. Ren had used his weapon to shoot a rope to tie up the Lord. Suddenly, Iga unexpectedly ran out and released the death magic from the ring, causing Ren, who wasn't cautious, to be stabbed with a fatal blow. Arios on the roof was satisfied as his intent had been achieved, but he didn't expect that Ren wasn't affected at all, making them very worried. Just now was a super-class magic, the Grim Reaper's scythe, causing sudden death, but Ren wasn't affected at all. Kanet's group increasingly admired Ren more because he could withstand all magic. But Rana seemed to be thinking about something and called him to spray poisonous smoke all over his body. Sora, seeing this, choked her little sister for being too rash. Because in the world, how could there be a case where a familiar would cast poisonous magic on their master? Indeed, Rana had always wondered when Ren formed a contract with the sisters, only receiving one skill, wasn't it too unfair? So after earlier, she had guessed that it was the skill of nullifying abnormal states thanks to the contract with them. That's why the poison earlier also had no effect. Finally, she had satisfied her curiosity and also learned about Ren's new skill. Sora was extremely upset that Rana dared to experiment on Ren without telling her. The two sisters' noise made little Nina scared and trembling. Iga up here was currently very disappointed and couldn't believe he had failed. Indeed, as Ario said, Ren would steal everything from his hands, making the hatred in him increase the power of that ring. That magic began to spread throughout Iga's body and had a very unpleasant smell. That purple thing had swallowed Iga and revived the demon race once more. That was also what had destroyed Ren's childhood. The demon who had just been revived again was quite interested, but because there were too few people here, he had flown into the city to harm the citizens. Ren felt it wasn't good, fearing that the townspeople would be harmed, but when he turned back, he saw his real teammates waiting for him. Understanding each other, Ren began to plan. He asked Stella to take care of the citizens and Nina. But at this time, Nina grabbed Ren's sleeve and indicated that she also wanted to help. Ren knew Nina hated fighting, so he comforted her, saying she just needed to wait obediently for them. Ren's group ran to the town to stop the demon's behavior. Hearing Ren say he would defeat him, the demon laughed loudly and was very interested in Ren. When he exposed a weakness, Kanet and Tanya directly attacked him. Ren used the binding rope to distract him for the little squirrel to set up magic to deal with him beautifully. But in reality, their attacks seemed useless, because seeing 5 against 1, with Ren having 4 of the strongest clans, the demon asked permission to call more brothers to welcome them. He had summoned many monsters that he considered his cute servants. But to Canet's group, they were just small fry. But they didn't expect the demon to be able to summon these monsters infinitely like that. Canet fiercely rushed forward to continue fighting, but was hit by the demon's attack and thrown to the ground. Tania, angry, released the dragon's breath to fight him. Meanwhile, Sora and Runna would treat Canet. But Tania's dragon breath seemed unable to withstand the demon's power, so she fainted there. He began to unleash moves that destroyed all the houses in the city. Ren's group successively performed magic to attack him again. Ren began to enhance multiple targets on Canet and Tania. Both began to frantically rush in to attack him, but their punches didn't affect him at all. Moreover, the demon summoned more monsters to surround Ren's group. The demon left his underlings behind and flew up into the sky, intending to destroy the horizon. Tania urgently exhaled the dragon's fire so she could stop it for a while. At this time, Ren had a flashing thought he wanted to try. But if so, then the citizens in the city would be in danger. So Sora's group volunteered to support him by bringing the citizens to a safe area using teleportation magic. During that time, Ren's group would destroy the demon. They told him not to worry about their identities being exposed, because their identities were already known to all those who were rescued in the mansion. After planning, each group would go into their work. Meanwhile, Ario's hero group was still discussing whether to join the battle or not, because they heard there was a demon, and demons were the vanguard of the Demon Lord. Arios had denied this support because he said their enemy was the Demon Lord, so just ignore them. Mina and August wanted to complain about this, but were hesitant with Arios. At the same time, Stella's army also went into battle to protect the citizens. Stella didn't allow them to give up because their mission was to protect both the citizens and the city. Sora and Runna suddenly ran breathlessly to them and had a request about the evacuation of the citizens. Stella, after hearing it, agreed to help immediately. Stella and her soldiers, after hearing the plan, left, leaving Mina to Sora's group to protect. Canet and Tania were still diligently working to save the citizens from those monsters. Their mission was to clear the way for the citizens to reach Sora's group's teleportation magic. Humans, seeing the appearance of the Spirit Clan, which originally hated humans, couldn't trust them. They feared that if they jumped into that magic, it would be very dangerous. And at this time, Sora and Runna looked sad. The hot dog shop owner they had eaten from before recognized them and came over to ask. The uncle smiled happily and volunteered to step into the magic circle first. After that, the little girl they had met in the town also recognized them and talked to them. And there were also citizens they had rescued who successively stepped in. The two sisters began to perform magic to successfully bring them to a safe place. Before they could evacuate all the citizens, a soldier had announced that the monsters were approaching them. Runna handed the task of performing magic back to her sister, and she would take on the responsibility of rushing forward to help. When fighting with the endless stream of monsters, Canet and Tania were almost exhausted. Fortunately, there was the special appearance of the adventurer group that had been disciplined by Tania once coming to help. Not only them but also the Horizon Adventurer team, who saw this as a special commission requesting support for Ren's team. Currently, they were playing the role of knights driving away the monsters attacking the city. Because Ario's hero team didn't participate, Natalie thought this would be a difficult battle. Even Mr. Gans, the top weapon shop owner in the city, offered to support combat weapons for everyone. These were all soul weapons he had put his effort into creating. They all determined to unite to protect this Horizon city safely and clear the way for Ren's group to advance. Nina, looking at the older brothers and sisters putting all their effort into protecting each other, felt a strength rise in her heart. Although the little girl was afraid of getting hurt or hurting others, when she saw everyone doing their best to resist, the little girl had a new thought. Although getting closer, Ren felt the distance was still far to get right in front of the demon. Canet suggested letting Tania transform into a dragon and fly up. But Tania couldn't do it, because with that formation, she would have difficulty performing. Even if approaching, she would just become a target and couldn't touch him. Even Sora's group's teleportation magic wasn't enough to do it. But she knew there was someone who had the most accurate teleportation ability. That was the strongest clan, the God Clan. At the same time, Nina had run to find Ren and hugged him. Seeing the little girl, Canet and Tania remembered. They had heard that the God Clan had a special ability that other strongest clans didn't have, which was the manipulation of space for instant teleportation. Ren also asked if the little girl could help. Although Nina was quite shy, she still agreed to lend him her power. Tamed and Tanya would be responsible for taking down the monsters down here, while Ren and Nina would together approach the demon more closely. Ren used Mr. Genz's armor weapon to avoid attacks while moving. When he cast a giant magic ball at Ren, Nina immediately used instant teleportation magic to appear before him, making him confused and cautious. Ren began to enhance his inner strength, then suddenly teleported in front of him and tried to overwrite the dominion over his monsters. The demon couldn't believe that a human like him could steal his dominion. When asked about Ren's identity, he just smiled and introduced himself as just a normal beast tamer. The enraged demon had broken Ren's magic binding circle and rushed to attack. Unexpectedly, he had been commanded by Ren to have his monsters attack him instead, making him unable to hold on and gradually disappear in space. Although it was outside his expectation, he seemed to find Ren very interesting and wanted to know his name before dying, but still received a cold refusal from him. Finally, it ended, and Nina beside him was also exhausted and fell in the void. Fortunately, Tanya had caught them safely. The sunlight of Horizon City had also brightened again. After that incident, the city gradually returned to its previous vibrancy. Stella had also officially assumed the position of captain of the Night Squadron. If it was her, he was sure she could change the Night Squadron wonderfully. According to her, those involved in the corruption story had been taken to the royal capital to receive punishment. Stella also looked into the story of little Nina's village. It was said that the villagers had abandoned the village because Nina had been taken away. But Ren believed that as long as they were alive, sooner or later, the moment of their reunion would come. Tamed was extremely active in the restoration of the city, as if she had completely become a citizen of Horizon. And Tanya was still hiding the fact that she was a dragon clan, but it seemed that everyone had known her identity for a long time. Sora and Rana were also quite integrated with the life of this city, occasionally visiting the uncle's hot dog shop to eat snacks. Although he had rescued everyone like a hero, Ren didn't dare to call himself a hero, because he always felt he was just a normal beast tamer that could be found anywhere. Taned's group was always helpless to deny his modest statements. After providing combat support for Ren's group, Nina also very much wanted to become his strength like the other sisters. Ren understood Nina, so he also welcomed her, just that he had already formed contracts with everyone. Now, forming a contract with Nina, he wasn't very confident. But when looking at everyone's eyes, Ren decided to take a risk. A few minutes later, Ren had successfully formed a contract with Nina. As soon as it was done, Tamed and Tanya rushed to hug and cuddle the little beast girl. Even Sora and Rana were very happy because they had always wanted a cute little sister like that. After reuniting, Ren's group went to the guild and saw Stella. They wondered why the Night Squadron captain was at the Adventurers Guild today. Stella said that from now on, adventurers and the Night Squadron had decided to cooperate with each other. So now they were discussing with each other to maintain security together. Everyone was very happy because they were going in a good direction. Stella was very grateful to everyone because, thanks to Ren's group, she was able to achieve her wish of returning the Night Squadron to its original nature. And at this time, Natalie also indicated she had something for them. Taking this opportunity, Natalie announced that the guild would decide to promote Ren to rank C adventurer. Ren felt that this sister was buffing him a bit too much because he had only recently advanced to rank E. But Natalie had a legitimate reason for raising Ren by 2 ranks to C without issue. She even thought of buffing him to rank A, which would be more deserving for him. And there was also a mountain of money he would receive as a reward. Feeling warm in his pocket, Ren decided to invite everyone to eat well. By the way, Natalie eyed Nina as another new face. Ren immediately introduced Nina as his new teammate. Natalie couldn't resist and hugged the little girl. But looking closely, she realized that this little girl was from the God clan and was startled. She whispered to Ren, asking if Nina would be angry because she had accidentally treated her like a child. When receiving the answer from Nina that she wouldn't be, Natalie hugged the little girl one more time. And after that, the sisterhood also wanted to cuddle Nina together with her. After that, Ren began to discuss the team. Because the group now had too many members, making their current rented room too cramped. Hearing this, Natalie suggested that Ren could buy a house and introduced that the guild also recommended houses and even had financial subsidies, especially for adventurers with real strength who wanted to stay in the city. Her enticing eyes made Tanya sense her determination not to let them leave the city. Ren asked for everyone's opinion, and it seemed that everyone agreed to stay in this city. Ren had also saved up quite a bit, and now there was also guild subsidy money. So Ren decided to sign a contract to buy a house. After designing many houses in the city, the sisters couldn't find any they liked. Natalie introduced the last house, comfortable and airy, and they immediately liked it. This house was built with wood and had a spacious garden based on the wishes of Tamed and Sora. There were also more than 10 rooms that could fit large beds according to Tanya's request. And the kitchen plus bathtub that Rana and Nina were looking for was also fully equipped. Moreover, the furniture was within Ren's budget. Tanya stood up to ask the sister why she didn't introduce such a good house first. Rana heard the smell of her conspiracy. Natalie, hit in her black heart, was startled and stepped back. Everyone's eyes were focused on her, so she had to tell the truth that there was a lady in white appearing there. Kenneth, hearing of this appearance, was scared and hid behind Ren. Tanya was very disappointed with her because she was supposed to be from the strongest clan, but was afraid of ghosts. This time, she even had to be comforted by the little squirrel. At this time, everyone swallowed their saliva in tension to listen to Natalie's story. It was the story of a pillow being flipped after taking a nap. There was also hot bath water being replaced with cold water. During meals, sugar and salt were switched. There was even a rotten egg put in shoes that had been taken out. Moreover, there was leftover curry from the evening smeared on laundry that was about to dry. Hearing this, Janet was scared with her tail curved. Although they were a bit reluctant to stay in this place, they would regret missing this house. So Ren suggested one thing. They would investigate this house in front of them, and then think about what they could do. Ren's group opened the door and entered. The house was all dark. Nina had just sneezed once, and Janet had already tightly grabbed Tanya's tail and pulled it. They felt this didn't look like a haunted house because it was clean as if regularly cleaned. Suddenly, the tables, chairs, and objects around here began to shake and move on their own, and there was even a voice chasing them away. Janet, who was originally afraid of ghosts, ran around in a panic. In front of them suddenly appeared a woman in a maid's outfit chasing them away. Sora's group performed magic to destroy this little ghost, but that woman still appeared hanging upside down from the ceiling. The sisters were discussing what kind of magic to perform because if they used too much force, they would blow away both the ghost and this house. Hearing this, the ghost seemed scared but still messed things up to chase them out. Tanya realized that the ghost didn't seem to know how to attack. They pointed out the ghost's weakness, which made her very upset. But noticing a character who seemed quite afraid of her, the ghost stuck her head up from under the floor to scare Janet, making her run around everywhere. Because the ghost had inadvertently stimulated Janet's fear, she had extended her claws to attack, scratching the ghost's clothes, making it extremely confused. Tanya also realized the vulnerability that could damage the soul's body with a physical body. Because Janet's fear had reached its peak, now the one who was afraid was that ghost. Janet went crazy and began to bite the dress and break things. Moreover, she suddenly appeared, scaring the ghost back. Taking this opportunity, Sora and Rana had performed a sealing magic so that the ghost could no longer escape. Janet fluffed up her fur, about to rush forward, but was grabbed by the neck by Tanya in the air like a cat going crazy. Now Ren began to negotiate with that ghost. The ghost thought to take a risk and rush in to borrow Ren's body but failed. He had sealed the ghost's teleportation because when he was little, he had heard a neighboring uncle tell about ghosts and soul tamers, but he didn't tell her how he could control a ghost like her. Because Ren saw that the ghost in front of him still had a clearer personality than normal ghosts, he thought she would be more likely to listen to him. The ghost was about to react but was already pinned to the floor by Ren, struggling like a stranded fish. Knowing she had lost, she gave him the freedom to do whatever he wanted. Unexpectedly, Ren wanted to shake hands with her, making her laugh because he was a strange human. She introduced herself as Tina, who used to work as a maid in another town but had logged out 30 years ago and then drifted here because she was a soul that hadn't been freed. Tanya wondered why she became a ghost. Then Tina had told that her former master was a perverted evil man who was crazy about girls and liked to torture. She was also his victim. By the time she realized it, she opened her eyes and was already a ghost. Because she had lost to Ren's group, she accepted to leave. Ren asked Janet what she thought, and she said although she was scared, if she stayed with everyone, she would probably get along fine. So Ren asked for permission from Sister Tina to let them live here. Tina was quite shocked because she had intended to leave, but for Ren, it was because of her presence that they could buy this house at a cheap price, so he suggested she stay together. Janet just asked that Tina not fly through walls and scare them. Sora and Rana's group seeing that she used to be a maid, thought she would be very good at cooking, so they also wanted her to teach them how to cook. Everyone welcomed Tina warmly, so she also agreed to stay. After that, Ren successfully signed the house purchase contract. Sister Natalie felt very surprised by him because Ren could even make friends with a ghost, showing his level. At the market, the uncle selling fruit was selling when he encountered Ario's hero group. He suggested the uncle choose food for them for a week, but didn't bring money and pulled out his hero status to eat for free. The owner immediately refused because he didn't have enough goods to spare for them. When they kept mentioning their identity as a hero team, the owner was visibly annoyed and scolded them for not helping Horizon at all and still putting on airs. Along with that, the remaining merchants also refused to provide food for them. The surrounding citizens also began to mock and criticize them, making Arios furious and leave. Hearing them mention Ren made the hatred in Arios grow bigger and bigger. On this side, Ren had just returned from the market with Canet. Suddenly, Canet ran in front of him and opened her mouth to welcome him back, surprising him. That evening, they had a housewarming party together. These were all foods that Tina had taught Rana to make. Rana was very confident that from now on, she would be in charge of cooking, not her sister. There was so much food that little Nina didn't know where to start eating, and Canet and Tania were losing control, rushing in to find their favorite dish, meat, to gobble up. At this time, little Nina received a lot of love and warmth. The little girl then expressed her gratitude to Ren for making her no longer alone. Nina's words once again made Ren remember the past. The day he lost everything, there was a big void in his heart. But now it wasn't like that, because they were teammates of each other. Tina, seeing this, greatly admired them. Although the adventure with Ario's group couldn't fill the void in his heart, only when he became an adventurer to live a free life and met everyone did he feel warmer than ever. In a moment of emotion, he inadvertently shed tears, but he brushed it off, saying it was just because he was hungry. After that, everyone together began the housewarming meal for the new house. The story of the beast tamer who was kicked out of the hero team and met the group of cat-eared girls from the strongest clan ends here.